All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah HaKodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations to you, sincere and hopeful elect Akim, that puts the word of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai in spirit and in truth. All right, coming back at you with another lesson. And this lesson will be, centered around the economy, the state of the economy. Okay. All right. Centered around the state of the economy, and I'm gonna let Richard Wolff, which is a economist, he's gonna go into, why investors aren't investing in Babylon. Okay, which we know that it's only a matter of time before the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, wholeheartedly just pulls the plug on this place. Okay, but he's going to go into, an example that I find pretty interesting of what's really taking place. This whole interview was good that he conducted with this dude, Danny Haifong, which I believe both of them are from New York. But, he's going into why America is not safe. All right. And I think I'll title this lesson that America is not safe. And from an investor standpoint, America is not safe because, this place is in heavy debt. All right. So he's going to explain a little. So I'm going to let this play.
Being away. Apartments are being sold by those rich people. You know why? Because the United States isn't safe the way it was. What makes them think so? Let me give you a few examples. It's the president of the country that celebrates lawfulness, making the law of the land count for something. This is a country that has, in the last 4 months, killed 85 people sitting in little boats in the Caribbean and the Pacific in the neighborhood of Venezuela. These are people the president says are drug traffickers operating in narco boats. These are all presidential terms. Did they get a chance to confront their accuser? No. Do we have any evidence presented to any jury or judge about these people's behavior? No.
Yeah, so, no due process. All right, and I believe that was something that was in the news not too long ago, earlier this year. Trump trying to do away with due process. You can get convicted of a crime and they can just throw you under the jail. Okay, and that's what's happening with a lot of those so-called illegals, all right, Northern Kingdom Israelites, so-called Mexicans, and so on and so forth. All right, a lot of them, get thrown in some alligator Alcatraz or some prison, never to be heard from again. But meanwhile, the president wants the laws of the land to be upheld by the citizens, okay, the taxpayers. But they themselves, that whole cabinet, consider themselves to be above the law. Now, using the example of the so-called narco boats, which they were simply Latin tribes fishing. All right, fishermen in the vicinity of Venezuela, they getting blown to hell and back. They're getting blown to hell and back, and these other nations see that, and that deters them from wanting to invest in America. Okay, that contributes.
Was there a jury? No. Was there a judge? No. The President of the United States executed, killed these 85 people. That's not lawful. For those of you who may not know, drug trafficking is a crime in the United States. And people are arrested for that crime in the United States. Literally, as I'm speaking to you, and that's been true for 50 years, if not longer. When that happens, they are arrested. If they have drugs, those are confiscated. They are then given a lawyer. They have an opportunity to defend themselves before a jury. The jury votes whether they're guilty or innocent. If they are guilty, they will be given time in prison. But we do not execute such people. Drug trafficking is not a capital crime. It is not punishable in the United States by death.
Right. Now, the government itself, to show you how hypocritical America is, the government itself, all right, funds these certain cartels to traffic drugs into America, you know, which gets the regular citizens of America strung out on these drugs. All right. They even support wars for the purpose of confiscating opium. In the case of Afghanistan, you know, they were pretty much patrolling poppy fields, which is where you get the opium from, versus them actually fighting the Taliban as is claimed, you know, which we know that is even funded by Babylon, the Taliban. Okay, all these CIA operative groups that are funded by the American government via American tax dollars are used to pretty much do Satan's bidding in the earth. Okay, so you over here blowing up people, you bringing drugs into the country, but then you'll blow up some fishermen and lie and say that they were dealing drugs. Meanwhile, according to American law, dealing drugs is not a capital a crime. It's not a crime that deserves capital punishment according to American law, meaning, you know, being executed. All right, so you'll execute fishermen and say they were drug dealers with no evidence of that, but fund, cartels to bring drugs into America. All right, so this is just a hypocritical nation, and it's taken a long time for, you know, the world to see, the average idiot. All right, the world over has realized that America is a complete corrupt society. The last people to get the memo are the citizens of America, being that, you know, American citizens are some of the dumbest people, you know, on the planet Earth. Okay?
The Trump is killing people. No jury, no judge, no lawful behavior. The rest of the world looks at this correctly as a sign of serious trouble. The same president is sending troops into the major cities. This is a sign of a society falling apart.
Okay. So, starting earlier this year, you had Donald Trump, and it's crazy to think that we are almost in December, man. Crazy, man. But anyways, earlier this year, you had Trump, you know, having the National Guard troops deployed to various U.S. cities along with ICE. All right, just running up and snatching people out their whips. Okay. With that happening, you know, that shows destabilization within the nation. And these other nations, they look at that. Okay, so in the eyes of an investor, you know, they don't want to invest in a society that's pretty much full of uncertainties. Okay, not to mention the tariffs and, you know, this, you know, Richard Wolff goes into all that. All right, but the state of America shows these other nations that invest in America by way of real estate and trade and so on and so forth, that this place is unstable. And with it being unstable, you know, it's not certain that you're gonna, you know, it's not guaranteed that you're gonna have a return. Okay.
Last week, Mr. Trump called for the death penalty for Democrats who told soldiers, reminding them you're not required to follow an unlawful order. I could go on, but these are signs to the rest of the world. Uh-oh, you better think again. How safe are you? A president who does those things, you think he will hesitate to seize your property?
Salah, I'm gonna speed it up. I'm gonna speed it up just a little bit. You hear that? Seize your property. All right, you invest in all these infrastructure and real estate, but at any given time, you know, the president himself can seize your property. All right, look what Russia did, or excuse me, America did with Russia. The money, when the whole Ukraine war popped off, I believe he's gonna go into it later on in the interview, or it might have been before. But when the war popped off with Ukraine and Russia, America pretty much froze, you know, Russia's bank account, so to say, its assets, and you know, eventually released it to Ukraine. So all the money that that Russia, you know, had, you know, was pretty much given to Ukraine, which is illegal. So who's to say that, you know, Trump wouldn't do something like that to these various nations, these corporations, and, you know, from, you know, overseas investors, you know, who's to say he wouldn't do something like that to them? So these are things that they're thinking about, man.
For those of you who don't know, at the beginning of the war in Ukraine...
Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Let me slow this down just a little bit. Salahi. All right. So this is a good point he's about to make.
$200 to $300 billion worth of Russian property. For those of you who don't know, at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, the United States and Europe seized $200 to $300 billion worth of Russian assets that were held in banks in Belgium and other parts of Europe. Okay, there it is. If you're a wealthy person, you're understanding. We live in a world where you now have to think that they're pulling their money out of the United States. They're spreading it around. Not so easy to find a safe place elsewhere. But the United States isn't what it was, and it's costing us. Lots of little places here, there. You wouldn't notice this apartment was sold, that deposit was reduced. But when you look at the whole picture, there you begin to see again the difficulties that our declining empire, and the reason why you want to sit down and work this out with the Chinese, not imagine that you're in the driver's seat and can punish them and whack them and it doesn't come back to hurt you. We're not in that anymore, and the sooner we understand it, the better off we'll be.
All right. So, you know, in my opinion, that's a very good interview. You know, he breaks it down to where you can understand, you know, the economy, how it operates. You know, so let me grab this in Habakkuk, the second chapter. This is verse 5. It says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell. And he is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people." Now Esau, well, let me start off by saying the graveyard is never be upset that people keep dying and have to get buried. All right, figuratively speaking. All right, a graveyard is not going to complain like, "Oh, this is too many bodies." You know what I'm saying? A mass grave crying about too many bodies or anything of that nature. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't do that. Okay, they wouldn't. It's not gonna happen. Okay, so in regards to Esau, he's likened unto that, man. He's likened unto a graveyard that you know could never be satisfied. Okay, Esau can never be content with what he has. He has to steal and take and covet what rightfully doesn't belong to him, which is why he heaped to him all these nations here in Babylon. Babylon the Great is a metropolis, is a pretty much a metropolitan. Okay, it's a clusterfuck, for lack of a better word, of heathens. Okay, that have been, mind fucked, Salakia, for my my pig Latin. All right, but they've been mentally jacked up to believe that they're American. Okay, they desire to be the descendants of Amerigo Vespucci. All right, when you call yourself American, that's you think you're the white man's your daddy. You think Esau's your daddy by saying that, and that's the mentality that all these heathens have. Their parents come here and then, as immigrants, and then they're born here, so they're the first generation or second generation, third generation, and they just really believe that they're Americans, man. All right. Verse 6, it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him? All right, talking about the other nations. All the other nations is now taking up parables and got little slick things to say about America, laughing and joking and realizing that America's demise is inevitable. Okay? And a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. All right, and that word clay is going into the Hebrew word abatyat, which means debt. All right, so America has pretty much, from the foundation of this place, started off with debt. Okay, the foundation of this place is debt. The core of this place is debt. All right. We was going into this past Monday, brothers was going into the debt clock, if I'm saying that right. And when you're born as a citizen, you're in debt off top. Okay, so that debt, you'll never get out of that debt. You'll never get out of that debt. Okay, the elder Barak Allah in LA sent me a video earlier talking about the housing market. Okay, so when you buy a house and you have a mortgage, 50-year mortgage or whatever, for the first however many years, you ain't even you're paying on the interest. All right, so you pay over $1 million, that doesn't even go to the value of the house. It's simply interest. And the way that is designed like that to keep you in debt, generational debt. All right, so one thing the person that was doing the explaining was saying that keeps generational debt going, and it keeps that generational debt going, and it's designed to never have you climb out that hole. So you're pretty much just a glorified renter that has to pay for all the repairs out of your own pocket. So it's really stupid to try to own a house, okay? In this society. All right, now jumping to Isaiah chapter 19. I'm gonna read this in the NLT. So verse 11, it says, "What fools are the officials of Zoan?" Okay, now Zoan, right? Let's look this up in the Hebrew. Zoan, H6814, and it's Taza I1. Okay, it says place of departure, an ancient city in Lower Egypt called Tanis by the Greeks, located on the eastern bank of the Tanitic branch of the Nile, the capital of the Shepherd dynasty, built 7 years after Hebron and existed before Abraham, and a dwelling place of the Pharaoh at the time of the Exodus, modern sand. Okay, so a place in Egypt. Okay, so, and once again it said that was a place of where the Pharaoh, dwelt. All right, so it says, "What fools," verse 11 in NLT, "what fools are the officials of Zoan? Their best counsel to the king of Egypt is stupid and wrong." And is that not what we witness pertaining to America and Donald Trump and his whole cabinet? They're a bunch of idiots. You know what I'm saying? Making things worse. Talks of certain individuals being colluding with Russia. All right, talking with Russia and you know what I'm saying, to give Russia the advantage over America, over Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin over Donald Trump, and and these are members of his own cabinet. Okay, the whole Epstein thing, the files, Donald Trump, Elon Musk saying that the reason why Donald Trump don't want to release the files is because he's in them. Okay, so everything that's being counseled to this current administration is wrong, man. It's stupid. Okay, it says, "Will they still boast to Pharaoh of their wisdom? Will they dare brag about their wise ancestors? Where are your wise counselors, Pharaoh?" All right, now they pride themselves on the president this. They refer to certain presidents because of certain things they've done, and they try to mirror that, and copy that, copy paste, but it's not working. And even those so-called wise presidents before them were idiots too. Okay, it says, "Let them tell you what the Most High plans, what the Lord Yahweh of heaven's armies is going to do to Egypt." All right, so all this bullshit, these counselors is feeding the president, and the bullshit coming out of Donald Trump's mouth about what he's gonna do and this and that. Hey, to hell with all that. This is what the Lord gonna do. This is what Yahweh Shem Yahushua gonna do. Okay, do to Egypt. It says the officials of Zoan are fools, and the officials of Memphis are deluded. The leaders of the people have led Egypt astray. The Lord has sent a spirit of foolishness on them, so all their suggestions are wrong. They cause Egypt to stagger like a drunk in his vomit. All right, so someone should have informed Trump that those tariffs that he was going to impose earlier this year wasn't going to do nothing to help this economy, which he knew that. All right, but there should have been countless members in that cabinet to tell him that's not a good idea. That's not a good look. You're going to further alienate America from the rest of the world. All right, now we know it's all everything is orchestrated, but if they really, if you know, if the whole thought of a president leading the country was actually had its own ability to do what it wants to, or operate without being controlled, by the small hats, then you would have presidents actually trying to get rid of the debt, all right, of Babylon's debt, all right, like Russia did a couple years ago, probably about 7 years, something like that ago. Russia actually paid off billions of dollars of debt that it had. Okay, that it, so now, they don't owe another nation anything. They pay back, what they owe. All right, but that's not, you ain't gonna find that in America. America's not about to do that. All right. Verse 15, it says, "There is nothing Egypt can do. All are helpless. The head and the tail, the noble palm branch, and the lowly reed." Okay, so let me read that in the KJV, Isaiah 19:15. It says, "Neither shall there be any work for Egypt which the head or tail, branch or rush may do." And we see that. Okay, there's a jobs that's hard to come by. If you got a job, consider yourself blessed. Consider yourself highly blessed. But there's nothing that Babylon can do to dig itself out of this debt that it's currently in. All right, and the nations are seeing that and pretty much turning away from Babylon the Great. All right, they're not investing in Babylon the Great. They don't have any trust in Babylon the Great. Okay, so eventually, America being the cash cow that it is, these nations and foreign investors is going to make a run on the bank, so to say. All right, take what they can and get the hell up out of here. And that's going to have America with all this, the Federal Reserve notes coming right back home. The chickens coming home to roost. So with all this artificial money, okay, that it can't lend out to these other countries, it's just going to be sitting right here in America, and that's going to further devalue the dollar to where it collapses. All right, and these other nations are all joining BRICS. So they're going to be using a different form of currency. And the only ones who's going to be stuck with the dollar that's not going to be worth anything is so-called Americans. All right, and that's going to further accelerate hyperinflation, to where this society just completely collapses. All right. So this is Jeremiah 51 in verse 7. It says, "Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad." So the nations actually played ball according to America's rules. And they now see that, damn, we over here following these rules to a T. And America itself, they don't even follow the rules they set forth. So why the hell is we going to continue to get screwed over, all right, when there's a whole nother system in which we can pretty much make transactions, being the BRICS, okay, where you don't have to use American Express and MasterCard and Visa payment systems, Babylonian payment systems. All right, we can tap into a whole different payment system, and with that, you can either use the BRICS currency or you can even use your own currency, versus having to get screwed over by converting your money into U.S. dollars, just to be able to complete transactions, So these nations is mad, man. Verse 8, it says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her? Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. So if there is anything that Babylon the Great can do to get out of this financial debt, this financial burden, the U.S. dollar, you know what I'm saying? They would have been on did it, man. All right, making things digital currency, ain't none of that is gonna get America out of the debt that it's in. Okay. Verse 9, it says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. So these nations, after a certain period of time, which we currently seeing that, they packing up and going back home. Okay? They can the wealth they've accumulated here in America, they can take that wealth, all right, invest it into another country, all right, whose currency is strong, all right, invest it in their native country, and just simply watch, and by way of them doing that, they're contributing to the decline of this place, the collapse of this place. All right, but these nations is, foreign investors know that America is cooked, which is why they're gonna go back to wherever the hell they came from and find somewhere else to invest in. Okay. And this also links up. Verse 9 links up with that in Revelation 18. All right, for her wickedness or iniquity, Babylon the Great, is reached the heavens. Okay, so the Lord is about tired of this place, being tired of this place, but He gonna kick the bucket, and that pretty much is that. I just wanted to go into that, man. I found that interview interesting. The way he was breaking down the economy and how these foreign investors are, not investing in America, and that in itself is going to contribute to the collapse of this place. All right, and the reason why these investors are not investing once again is because America is not safe. Okay, so I'll this was an edifying lesson. Until next time, I say shalom.